Hello, welcome to the It's About Time novel writing workshop. It is about time that you write your novel. That's what
It is.
2019 is for. Hey, Sarah, please.
Hey, Christy, looking good.
I'm Christy Bridges from One Moment Wiser, and this is Sarah Soon, also known as Sarah Freeman. But Sarah Soon is your pen name, right?
It sure is.
Sarah is from Write to Edit, and we're going to help you through some exercises that are going to help your writing really shine and push you a little forward towards getting that novel written this year.
Yep.
I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I am a corporate trainer by day, but that hasn't stopped me from writing songs with several bands and writing 4 books. And I'm just finishing my
Wow.
5th book. Yeah,
Awesome.
it's a busy life, Sarah.
Yes, I know. You make me exhausted thinking about it in a good way.
But everybody has to have something they do after work, and I love what I do. So I have used this experience with publishing my own books and with my corporate trainer background to launch a course last year for people to write devotional books, Share Your Wisdom Wisely. But as soon as I did that, people started asking, well, do you have something for writing novels? And I said, no, but I have a really good friend named Sarah. And Sarah has helped to develop this program, the It's About Time to Write Your Novel course that we are rolling out in pieces this year. So Sarah, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, I wanted to be a writer primarily just to write fiction. So I, took some college courses and I've taken just numerous writing online, gone to conferences, and I'm working on 2 novels. But in the interim, I've done some variety of freelance writing, from ghostwriting memoirs, writing magazine articles, edited a variety of books. But my first love when it comes to writing is novels. And currently I'm working on a historical romance fiction book based upon my grandparents' love story, set in 1939, just right before the United States goes into the Second World War. And I'm also been working on a historical YA fiction book. So it's exciting.
Historical stuff gets me. I love fantasy fiction, but when you take me back in time and I see a little bit of the life my grandparents lived
Yeah.
or their grandparents lived, then it makes those people real, like normal people who wore different clothes, right? And I understand a little more about them. That's so neat that you've done that.
Yeah, it's like I said, I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah. So you used some of the ideas from your historical fiction writing in our December session when we talked about grabbing the ideas that are all around you.
Yep.
And so I'm going to post a link to that idea grabbing session in case you missed it. You might want to go back. That one's a little shorter, but it's full of ways to get ideas just from sitting in a restaurant or hanging out with your family or looking at some of those historical items.
Yeah, and those are things that help you, especially if you're trying to start your novel and trying to get ideas of exactly, what you want to put in, not just the content, but how to research and what to research and what are some ways to trigger ideas that seem stuck in your mind. Because we as writers, we have the creative juices, but sometimes we get stuck on what exactly should we put in there. And it's great to use real life examples all around you to inspire that aspect of writing the novel.
Yeah. We looked at items together when we were having our December session, that little antique items like
Yeah.
the stereoscope and some other things. And if you hadn't seen those in a video like we shared them, but you were writing about them, how would you describe those in a way that your reader would actually understand what you were talking about? Has that been a challenge for you?
Yeah, absolutely. But the more things I can get and see tangibly, really helps. Like, you know, going to a coffee shop and just watching people's gestures, listening to their conversations, watching a movie and writing down, you know, how people communicate in that particular time period, and looking through reading my grandpa's letters and writing down the sayings. And those things can just be a catalyst to open up your heart and your creative mind to say, okay, this is what I need to do. This is exactly how I should describe it. Because yeah, it comes from your imagination, but if you can touch and see something tangibly, it really helps to describe it even more.
Right, because your reader is not inside your head. And
Yeah.
so we want to make sure that we're describing things in a way that gets our reader's attention, but that our reader can relate to. And I love what you were talking about, listening to people's conversations or watching movies and listening to the way they talk, listening or watching their facial expressions and their movements. Those are things we're going to be talking about today. So in today's sessions, we're going to talk about dialogue and making it realistic and appropriate for the time period. We're going to talk about description that uses all your senses, and description that uses action and body language. So those are things that we are in for today, and I'm glad you joined us. Later, at the end of the session, we're going to post a book planner for you. So this is a planner that's based on our experience in writing and planning and promoting and having to set up a business, and also going through the publishing process. So this book planner, I think you'll find very valuable, and we're going to give that as our gift to you at the end of today's session. So if you have friends out there, then you're thinking, I should have invited them. Invite them now. Yes. Share this video, and we're going to get started. So, yay! Sarah, what do we want to talk about first?
Okay, senses. As writers, we do have a unique opportunity to create a world through words, but not just ordinary words, but words that create a new world for the readers and bringing them into the story. One effective tool is using sensory words, words that appeal to the reader's 5 senses. Now, Disney Corporation understands this principle. Have any of you, including Christy, been to Disney World?
I love the way they create an experience. Even the music in the stores gives you the mood of that particular part of the kingdom. And they're just so thorough and so detailed. It's beautiful.
It is. They do create that magical experience. One of the rides that I experienced was the Flight of Passage at Animal Kingdom. It's a theme park in Disney World, and it's called the Flight of Passage, but it's a virtual reality journey into the world of Pandora from the movie Avatar. So I'm not sure if anyone's seen the movie. I actually saw it after I rode the ride. It made a little more sense.
I'd probably do that too.
Yeah. The virtual reality experience wasn't just a thrilling visual spectacle, but when we surf in the waves, I could feel the mist hit my face. They actually blew mist as we're going through a ride. And then as I rode the Banshee, I could hear the violent flap of its powerful wings and the yelps of the Na'vi and the thundering hoofs from a buffalo stampede below. I would admit, I even closed my eyes, feeling like we're going to crash into the herd of buffalo.
That's a pretty effective experience. So we don't want our readers to close their eyes, but we do want them to feel that way.
Right, because then it just so appeals to your senses and you feel like you're actually there. Yes. It's such a popular ride that the wait can be up to 3 hours or even longer.
Oh my.
Yeah, I was stunned to see people waiting in a 3-hour long line. I'm like, okay. And that made me think, if people are willing to wait 3 hours for a 15-minute ride, then your readers are sure to invest at least 3 hours to venture into the world that you create in your story. So that's why it's so important to appeal to all their senses to bring them into that story where they can't put the book down.
Yeah. I have finished a book at 5:30 in the morning because I literally just couldn't get away from it. I carried it with me to get drink. I carried it with me all over.
I carried mine into the bathroom, I have to say.
You admit it. Yeah, I didn't want to admit it.
Well,
that's what we want for you guys.
Yes. So the question is, well, how can you use these senses most effectively in your writing? Well, think about the purpose of a scene. For instance, if you're writing a romance, then smell will likely be a powerful tool because scents conjure a variety of responses, especially stirring up memories. Yeah. Maybe your protagonist is working hard to win a female's heart. What if he wears the cologne of her former flame?
Oh, no.
The guy who broke off the engagement only a year ago? Will this prevent your protagonist from getting a first date? In a sci-fi movie, touch can be powerful to connote a world much different than what the readers are used to. A character touches a fish in the ocean and it feels hard like metal. The readers will know this isn't Earth. Yeah. Taste shows the readers what the character is experiencing. If the protagonist gets in a fist fight and suddenly tastes metallic in his mouth, it's probably blood. And the fight might not turn out well for our hero. Sound is especially great for thrillers or suspense. The character gets in a horrific car crash, using the sounds of the car crushing underneath the weight of the semi. The blasting of the horn as the driver's head hits the steering wheel and screams from the other passengers connotes a powerful scene the reader will probably not forget. They may feel like they're almost witnessing or in the car themselves. Mm. So know that, huh?
Oh, yeah, I was just agreeing, yeah.
So these senses are necessary in any genre you write, but to which one to use for a particular scene is important. You want to use the one that'll be the most powerful tool to draw the reader into that scene. All right, I'm excited to share a passage from my romance novel set in 1939. As Jean and Stuart entered the diner, she was relieved that they had escaped the lunch crowd, a group of older men who occupied 2 tables set close together. They filled the room with loud voices and hearty laughter, as if they had no care in the world. A mom and her small child sat at the counter as the waitress set 2 milkshakes in front of them. Jean licked her lips as the fluffy whipped cream looked inviting. Ugh, the plastic coating from her freshly applied lipstick lingered on her tongue. Stuart led her to the far left corner, away from the small crowd. His casual tone relaxed her, especially as he explained why he was late for their lunch date. He touched her back as he pointed to the bright red booth. His hand felt warm. She slid into the padded booth that felt soft like her aunt's thick cushioned couch. Then her stomach grumbled as a smell of grease and coffee filled the diner. Normally she ate lunch much earlier, but she didn't mind today since she sat across from Stuart, someone she didn't expect would ever notice her, much less pursue her like he did.
I just want to watch them fall in love. So what if, I love, by the way, the lipstick thing. Who would think of that? Everybody thinks of whipped cream, but who would think of those other sensory experiences that are barely noticeable but really tell us something about her? Yeah. She licked her lips in anticipation of the whipped cream and went, lipstick. So appropriate. So what if you hadn't included those senses? What would it sound like then?
All right. The diner was sparse except for a group of older men who occupied 2 tables set close together. A mom and her small child sat at the counter eating ice cream sundaes. As Stuart led Jean to the far left corner, away from the small crowd, he explained why he was late for their lunch date. He touched her back as he pointed to the bright red booth. She was hungry. She normally ate lunch much earlier, but she didn't mind today since she sat across from Stuart, someone she didn't expect would ever notice her, much less pursue her like he did.
That's not bad, but it's more like a term paper, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all more matter of fact, and you don't really get into her experience as much.
You don't slide into that booth that feels like a thick cushioned couch. Yes, I agree.
You don't sense her grumbling stomach that she's hungry and wanting to eat.
That I totally flinched when her stomach grumbled because I thought, oh, how embarrassing. Yep.
Right. So yeah, I agree with you, Christy. You don't get as much sensory description that helps pull you in there. And her experience, this is on her first date with a handsome prospect.
Mm-hmm.
Now you guys have a world. We want you right now to apply all the 5 senses in one of the pictures Christy's going to provide that's going to use your 5 senses to help readers immerse themselves into the world of this picture. You guys all have a minute to write a sentence or 2 in comments below.
All right. So let's give them a minute after I post this. So this is, by the way, just a reminder, this is a workshop. This is not a listen shop. We want you to actually have your novels written this year. So we're going to help you do that by giving you exercises like this. I'm going to get this picture posted in just 2 shakes. Oh, give me one more shake.
I think I gave you 2.
Now.
Can everyone see those images? Please.
Not yet.
Oh.
I do apologize for the delay. It's taking a moment. Okay, so here we go. Comments. On the tool that I'm using, I wasn't able to do it, so I'm going to do it right here instead.
Great.
Let's comment as me instead.
Well, you guys can be using this time to get your writing tablet or journal, notebook, or open up any Word application doc or wherever you want to write.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you're going to write in comments, but in case you guys want to write some notes as you're looking at it.
Okay. Well, piddle.
Makes you want to do the, is it from Jeopardy? Dun, 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 dun.
I don't know. There might be copyright issues with that. Okay, so it's not letting me post that. So what I might do. Okay, so I am here. All right. Well, we have some really neat pictures for you to work with, and I'm going to post them as a separate post on my page because I know that I can do that. So let me go ahead and just post those now. You'll have to look at those in a little bit, or I don't mind if you go out and then come back into the live session. Upload photos. Now we're good.
Oh, is it showing up?
Almost.
Was there any writers, Christy, you think that do an excellent job of using the senses and bring you into the story? Can you think of any offhand? No pressure. I can think of some.
Okay. So that is now posted. So what you can do, for those of you who've been so patient to wait for me here, is click on, go back to my page at One Moment Wiser. So click on the Christy Bridges or One Moment Wiser page, and you'll see a picture of 4 different things. So what you want to do is we will give you a time. It's 10:21 right now. So at 10:23, we will start up again. So you don't have long. Go to those pictures, grab one, and write a sentence or two using your all your senses describing this particular scene, and then post it in these comments. Okay, it's 10:22 now. We'll resume it 10:24. How about that? All right, go to it. We want to see your comments.
Happy writing.
All right. Doodly doo doo doo. I'm trying to come up with my own theme music.
Oh, yeah. You were, well, as they're working on that, like what are some authors you enjoy that really bring you into the story using senses? Is there one that just seems to excel at?
You know, there are a few authors that I really enjoy, and the one that literally I couldn't put down until I finished the book and felt like a culture shock coming back to the real world was Margaret Atwood. And she's just amazing. I wouldn't normally have picked up that genre necessarily, but I was at somebody's house, I was bored, I picked it up, and then I was just absorbed. She makes you feel and hear and smell, and even to the point where her character in this book, it was The Handmaid's Tale, used butter to moisturize her lips, and you could just taste that kind of sour, had been sitting out butter as she put that on her lips. And, you know, she just really did a good job. And I read that book 20 years ago, and I still remember that.
Wow. So it made quite an impression on you.
It really did. What about you?
I think one is Hunger Games. The author did an excellent job of describing, especially what Katniss was experiencing, what she, felt, what she, the different touches that she experienced once they were, in the what do they call that? Was it well, you haven't read it, but
I saw the movie though.
Okay. So, you could feel her hunger. You could feel like when Peeta got shocked.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. When I was reading the book, it was like so dramatic. I was like, oh my gosh. And I could think, oh my gosh, is he dead? And even the different things that she felt for him, she didn't just use visual. She talked about, the warmth in her stomach, and, it really brought me into a place that if she wouldn't have done it that well, I don't know if I could have read it, because it's a very difficult subject, but right. She just hooks you that you're like, oh, wow, what is this world? And why are they having to,
why are they having to do that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just horrific. But again, and even the last one, which was probably the most graphic and horrific, I just still couldn't put it down.
Wow. That is real talent and skill. It doesn't all come out in the first writing, does it? You have to get the thoughts out, but then go back and work at them a little.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's all right. It is it's 10:25. Now, so far, I'm not seeing any comments, but that's okay. I understand that you had to go out of the live to look at the pictures, and you may not have wanted to miss this fascinating conversation. But we want you to share your sentences, your reactions to these exercises, and also share any comments or experiences that you have. Who is an author that really just makes you feel like you're absolutely immersed in the book? Tell us about that in the comments here. And everybody's shy. Oh, wait, look at that.
Oh,
Robert responded. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you,
The
Robert.
metal of the lock was cold but smooth under my fingers. The red of the ink stood out on the sticker, which stood out on the gray of the metal. The gray stood out vividly against the green behind it. Oh, man. Yeah, I can feel that cold metal under my fingers. And then, oh, look at that. April is posting. April, go to @1momentwiser. And it's and the number 1 Moment Wiser, or you can just click anywhere you see my name in the comments. You should be able to click on my name and go straight to my page where the picture is. It was supposed to be right here, but technical issues had us go and post it on the main page, Facebook. Gotcha. So it's a set of 4 pictures that there's a lock and a bunch of ladies and a car and a, what do you call that? A hydrant with a ball. I wonder if you guys can.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. I'll just make it totally low tech. So right here, we've got a lock on a fence. By the way, that fence is on the bridge at Route 66 in Riverside. And then there's a hydrant with a ball in front. I thought that was a neat shot. I was driving through that neighborhood and had to stop. And then there's some ladies in Guatemala blowing bubbles after a presentation that I gave a few years ago. And there's a truck in a car wash. So these can be yours. Actually, I think it was in a parking lot on a rainy day, but these can be yours. You can put your character into them and use your senses. Ooh, Deborah Ingalls. Oh no, do I get it or not? Mom said not to go into the street, but there's my ball. Fantastic.
Yeah, she has another one. She said, the bell rang and she ran eagerly to the fence. It was there, the lock. Was today the day he would meet me here at the lock?
Ooh, is today the day? I don't know. Now I want to wait by the lock and see. And Deborah says,
go ahead.
Oh, no, that's all right. Watching intensely as the ladies waited patiently, entertaining themselves with simply blowing bubbles. Oh, you
and
guys.
Then Robert said,
go ahead.
Robert said, Tom Clancy is an author which makes me feel as if I'm in the scene.
Yes, Tom Clancy does kind of put you right in the middle of things. And that's taken him far, hasn't it? You know, what's inside your imagination, it can hook millions of people.
Yes.
As long as you put them into that experience.
Absolutely.
So let's move on, but please feel free to use these pictures to inspire you. And thank you so much, you guys, for playing along. Now, when you're describing things, it's fun to describe new, interesting places, interesting shots, interesting people. But just as a slideshow of pastel beaches gets kind of blasé, if you have large swaths of description, then you might put your reader to sleep. So your book should have a certain pace. You want to insert that description and other things at a pace that keeps your reader moving forward. And that pace can depend on your writing style and on your intended audience. Your story it might move slowly because it's a warm bath for a harried mom who just needs something to take her away.
Mhm.
It could be a speeding train, which makes your reader clutch his seat going, right? In either case, why not sprinkle bits of your description throughout lines of action? So I'll give you an example. In my novel, Summer and Winter, Chapter 1's final scene begins this way. She arrived at the door to the nature center as the sun was setting. It was locked. No problem. She could just go around. She stuck her leg through the 2-rail wooden fence, intending to duck through, and spasmed as a searing electrical shock went through her. Ow! She shouted. What the? They certainly took that 5 p.m. closing time seriously here. She could see her car through the windows, waiting for her on the other side of the building. She knocked on the door. Shouldn't someone be in there cleaning up? Hello? On the third knock, the glass door cracked, and she jerked her fist back. With a roar much bigger than cracking glass, the entire building swirled into itself and disappeared through the crack. Feet planted against the pole, she leaned away so hard she fell, hanging on to her scarf as the crack tried to suck it in. In the building's place was the 2-rail fence and what appeared to be 100 miles of woods between the fence and the gray Honda. Her brow wrinkled and her butt hurt.
All right, Chris. All that action of sticking her leg into the fence, knocking on the door, the building disappearing, the crack, of course, getting electrocuted.
Yeah.
But it just brought me right into that story. I'm like, okay, first of all, this must be a fantasy because she's about to go into a crack into another world. I visualize what's happening, and then I'm like, what's going to happen to her? Is she ever going to get to her Honda? So it really brought me into the scene.
Cool. And you knew by watching her go through these actions that there's a nature center. She's outdoors. She has a little gray Honda, so she's probably not wealthy, but she's independent, right? So you knew a few things through the description that was sprinkled among those actions. So I could have done it this way. I could have just described the scene. The woods were ringed by a brown 2-rail wooden fence. Summer had parked her little gray Honda in front of the nature center and gone running, wearing a soft green scarf to keep warm. Her mother had given her that scarf, and it had a "Made with Love by Mom" tag on it. The Orange Nature Center building was locked with an electric fence to keep out trespassers. It was only 5 o'clock, but the place seemed empty.
Yeah, it took a little while to even get to you haven't even gone to the action.
Right, and now you're kind of wondering if you need another donut or a nap. I don't know though. What did you guys tell me? Which one do you like? Do you like 1 or 2? Put that in your comments.
Made me think, I don't know if I want to go to a nature center again.
I'll tell you more about this story in a second, but I started hiking in the winter because a friend of mine from up north challenged me. She said, you can't love Mother Nature if you only love her in the summertime. And so I started hiking, and Tulsa has some gorgeous places. And when I was hiking at Redbud Valley, when there's no leaves on the trees, but the moss is a brilliant green in the cold of winter, all of a sudden I got this idea for this book. And every time I went hiking, I got a new scene. So
once again, we're inspired by going there.
I apologize. I interrupted you. What did you say?
No, I said once again, like we had talked at the very beginning, you got a lot of inspiration from being somewhere physically.
Yes, totally. So what if people aren't writing a fantasy novel? I think that's okay. Action doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to be supernatural. It can be completely ordinary, and people can still join your character. You can introduce new places and people while they're performing just normal things. Everybody eats, right? Do you eat?
Yes. Right?
I have an example from later in the story. How about this? Nobody talked to her, so she let hunger carry her away. Her nose had been right. There were cinnamon sweet potatoes that brought a lump to her throat. She thought of the Thanksgiving she'd traded for study time, the study time she was losing by being stuck here. The sweet, real butter made the lump easier to swallow. There was just a little meat to go around, but there were plenty of baked apples and raisins and cheese. Oh my goodness, cheese. She'd been dying for it, dreaming of it. She didn't know what tomorrow held, and she thought perhaps she should grit her teeth and refuse the offerings of the criminal who'd allowed her to be dragged here, bruised and banged the whole time. But it was truly delicious, and whatever happened tomorrow, she was going to be stronger for having a good meal. It was good.
Everyone's stomach growling.
So what did you learn about the character through that? You got a good experience of where she was. She's eating in a place where nobody's speaking to her. You got a little hint of the action. She was dragged here by somebody who she didn't want to come with. And so she's missing Thanksgiving with her family. But criminals can cook really good sweet potatoes. So you know a little bit more about everybody and you've experienced the moment. So I want to give you guys a turn. And oh, hi, we have more people too. This is awesome.
Welcome, everybody.
So you are welcome. If you happen to have gone to the pictures and you're wanting to write your description about those pictures, try it with a little action. So you want to use your senses. And now we want to add a little action. So I'll hold the pictures up like I did before. And then you can always go to my page if you want, or you can stick around here. And we'll give you a couple minutes to write a couple of sentences where you're using your senses and some kind of action. So will you keep our time for us, Miss Sarah?
Yes.
I don't know where my camera is. There we go. Camera.
It's 10:38, but we'll give you.
There we go.
Okay. We'll give you, because it might be in the middle of 10:38. We'll give you till 10:40.
10:40. We want to see what you have to write. Christina and Dama's stomachs are growling now. You know, when I travel, my husband watches cooking shows because I'm not here to cook.
Oh, are you serious? All right, one more minute, everybody. That reminds me, like when people fast, and I notice this too, they like buy cookbooks or go through cookbooks that they never would go through. And then once you're up, whoever goes back to those cookbooks and recipes?
That's hilarious.
All right, I'm excited to see what everyone's going to post.
All right, let's see what we have here. April says adjectives are our friend. That's right.
All right, let's see.
So I'm not seeing your comments yet, but that's okay. You take your time. We're going to move forward, but feel free to post your comments and we will, we want to see what you have to say. So we've talked about action and using your senses, but is a book do you really feel like you've gotten to know your character just by watching their behavior?
No.
Or just by feeling what they feel? If I sit down to a dinner with sweet potatoes, I might feel something different than what Sarah feels, because one of us might like the sweet potatoes and the other one might think, oh, this is that stuff they made me eat 2 bites of when I was a kid, right? So to know your characters better, what's that other thing that you need?
Dialogue, because this is where they, sorry, I'm a little bit, dialogue, because this is another important tool to help create a realistic story and bring the readers into your story. Because again, your goal is to keep the readers turning the pages and they don't want to set the book down.
Yes.
So dialogue is important to capture your readers' attention and keep it. Execute well, the readers will feel connected to your characters and ultimately the story. But beware, there's certain pitfalls will make readers feel as though they're watching actors and actresses practicing scenes from a play instead of conversing in real time. This will take them out of the story, disrupting the flow, their enjoyment. And if this happens too many times in the book, they may not finish it. So avoid these 3 pitfalls. Number 1, not sure if anyone ever read a novel where, bam, out of nowhere, a character hijacks the story and charges into long-winded soliloquy. It's called info dumping. They go into a speech where they share everything about themselves, other characters, and even worse, the plot. It takes you out of the story where you're no longer an observer, but a student sitting in a lecture hall listening to the author tell you all about the story through dialogue. You're thinking, wait, when did the author jump in? And this is not how people talk. Personally, I wanted to slam the book down and never pick it up again. Here's an example. Elizabeth, I don't think your only brother Elliot, who's 30, is ready to get back into the wild of dating. He only broke up with his fiancée with hazel eyes a month ago. And really, it was only a year earlier that he was engaged to another woman, the platinum-haired, blue-eyed aristocrat from London. And even though his crystal blue eyes, olive complexion, and great sense of humor could charm most women, I think he needs to see that relationship coach you told him about before he goes on Match.com. After all, we know that he will end up marrying her.
So let's see if I get this right. I'm going to be telling the guy's sister that he has an olive complexion and crystal blue eyes, and that the girlfriend, and that he's 30. And that the girlfriend he broke up with is a platinum hair, blue-eyed aristocrat. Which one do I have a crush on? I don't know anybody who talks that way.
Well, and then she also told you a plot that she wouldn't have known in real time because, he's thinking about, she wants him to see a relationship coach before going to Match.com. And then she says, well, he'll end up with marrying her. Well, she doesn't know that in real time.
Hello giveaway.
Yeah, the author knows that, but the author shouldn't tell you that there, especially through dialogue. So yeah, that isn't a major exaggeration, but it's a common mistake for beginning novelists to take the reader by the hand and explain the story and the characters from the start, especially through dialogue. Yes. Christy, what is the golden rule of writing?
Show, don't tell.
Right, so instead of the author just sharing all this information just through like one conversation, they need to gradually, through realistic dialogue, trust the readers to follow along. 6, read your story out loud, perhaps to a friend or a loved one. Your ear will usually catch where the character or characters hijack the conversation. You'll hear it. And romance your readers. While characters are conversing, don't just solely rely on dialogue, but add nuances. Flirt with subtle hints by sharing a visual description of your protagonist, like the body language that furthers the story. You guys, go ahead.
No, that's all right. You made me think about that. We don't think enough about body language, do we?
No. Well, only 7% of communication is through verbal mode. 93% is nonverbal. So much will be conveyed, even in that's conveyed in dialogue, is tone of voice, facial expressions, and body language. So you want to make sure you add that to the dialogue. And those are called dialogue tags at the end. And then you tantalize. Yep. Okay.
Dialogue antecedents, did you say?
Tags. Dialogue tags.
Oh, tags. Dialogue tags. Yes.
Or you say she said that with a flat tone, or she was crossing her arms, staring at him like he was her enemy. I mean, that's an exaggeration. I mean, that's not exaggeration, but those are examples of a dialogue tag. Okay. And that can help the reader understand the character too. Then you want to tantalize your readers with backdrop or foreshadowing a little later. And then you seduce them with banter between two characters that not only flows, but sounds like a real conversation you'd overhear at Panera as you're working on a novel.
Because that's a great place to go when you're working on a novel. Good place to get some tips.
Yep. So you want to unravel, don't dump.
That makes so much sense. So we keep the reader going by leaving those little breadcrumbs that makes the reader follow.
Yes. Right. You do not want to put information in the dialogue just to get information across to your reader if it doesn't sound natural.
We were talking about that last night, how some people want the reader to have a mental shift during the reading of the story. Books can be very powerful to help us change our ways of thinking. If you think about the Star Trek series, Gene Roddenberry had this huge impact on the way scientists thought and also on the way people thought culturally. But he didn't just come out in a conversation between two characters and dump a bunch of, the moral of the story dialogue. He wove it in, and you felt the changes, and you felt yourself changing without really realizing it. That's what we want to do. We want to keep it a story, keep it engaging.
Yes. Now, the second pitfall is dialogue that doesn't fit the setting. You ever read a historical novel when suddenly a character uses a contemporary word? Uh-oh.
Yeah, dude.
It brings you out of the story. Imagine if that was set in the Civil War. You'd be like, what? You have to remember, your setting is its own character. So make sure your dialogue fits the setting. Like I said, if your novel is set in the Deep South during the Civil War, you want to use dialect and idioms from that time period. No, whoa, dude. So while this seems obvious, it's amazing how you can suddenly add a word or phrase in the dialogue that doesn't fit the setting, especially on your first draft.
True. How do you fix that?
Okay. Read it out loud once again, especially to another person. The magic of dialogue is a powerful way for the reader to feel connected to the characters in the story. So if you've misplaced a word in dialogue, they will get pushed out of the story. So when you read it out loud, you're really more apt to catch it. Another option, especially if it's a longer novel and you've been in the thick of it, sometimes you don't pick those things up because you're, the forest through the woods concept. So, is you have a fact checker. You ask someone to read your manuscript. They will meticulously comb it for anything that doesn't fit your setting. Misplaced slang or idioms, or more contemporary ideas, concepts, and words, along with inaccurate historical facts. I've done this with my critique group, and they'll say, they didn't use straws till 1950 something. So that's
very helpful.
Yeah, I wouldn't have ever thought of that. So it's just another person to help, be your researcher. And now this pops up in dialogue and not only discredits you as the author, but makes your characters sound ignorant or out of place.
Yeah.
Christy, you don't want to murder your characters this way.
I don't like murdering characters.
Let's get to the third one. When we do the next exercise, we're going to read some of as you're writing, we'll read out loud some of your submissions from the prior one about action. So we haven't ignored what you guys have shared. Okay, last pitfall, too formal, informal dialogue. I've read novels where I stumble across stiff dialogue and think, People just don't talk like that.
Right.
You ever hear a character sound like he's better suited in Elizabethan England, but it's a contemporary story?
Mm-hmm.
You know, back then it was proper to address people by a tag in their last name. It's like this. Now, I'm not going to do the English accent. You
Oh,
mean
come on.
okay, I'll try, but laugh. We'll all laugh. You mean to frighten me, Mr. Darcy, by coming in all this state to hear me? That's like a Cockney accent. That wasn't Elizabeth Bennet. But that's from Prejudice. That was my attempt. Okay, so people don't talk like that anymore. Now, what if Elizabeth Bennet's now living in England in 2019? Would she converse like she did in Jane Austen's time? No. Readers will wonder if your story is a parody if you do. And if it's not, then you better bring her dialogue up to speed with the 21st century.
So how do you fix that when you're used to hearing maybe what you've been reading is those old Jane Austen novels and now you're trying to write something modern? How do you make the adjustment?
Read it out loud to somebody. Ask them to give you feedback, and trust me, they'll be like, no. And also use the character's tone as if reading a screenplay. So that also helps too if you just pretend you're the actual character and then you realize, wait, this doesn't sound like my character. Because if someone sounds off to your ear, especially too stiff, you will pick that up. You need to shorten the dialogue and do whatever to get into the character's voice. So once again, just read it like you're that character.
I like what you said. You need to shorten the dialogue if you're having trouble. You don't have to have your character talking for paragraphs. You can tell the story and have your character inserting a few sentences to keep the story moving. So don't get so glued to your words that you're afraid to cut them, because after your first draft, you're going to cut.
Yep. Take the axe.
So go ahead.
No, I was just saying, now it's your turn. Use the picture of the women and write dialogue between them or a few of them. Make sure to avoid those 3 pitfalls we discussed.
Sure thing. Now, let's go ahead, like you said, and just read some of the things that people have been writing, because, boy, you guys are with it. I'm loving the conversation. So we'll give you a couple of extra minutes to get the dialogue written so that we have a little extra time to hear each other's work. Let's see here. You want to read Robert's?
Sure. She observed the raindrops falling steadily against the window and wondered at the fact that the world moved on. But her world was falling apart with every word he spoke. Her eyes moved outside as she couldn't look at him. Okay.
Oh, I'm crying.
We're like, oh, we can feel his pain because of the action.
Actually, Robert, I will have to say, now, all of these have been spontaneous in their first drafts, right? But that's the best one you've done so far. I really like that one the best.
You want to read Deborah's?
Yeah, I'll read Deborah. As the rain fell gently, its coolness made her snuggle up inside her jacket further. She let out a slow breath as she gathered the jacket around her to make the mad dash to the porch. Ooh, Deborah, I like the way you end that with a burst of action. I'm already feeling cozy and wondering what's inside her head. And then I realize that she is on her way to something. I want to read more. Awesome. You want to read Smiley's?
Smiley's. I shut the door to Daddy's big car, and my school building looks unusually huge. I immediately start into a jog as I have an algebra test in my first hour. That's awesome. I think as I smell the fresh rain on the grass in front of my classroom, Mr. Brown pulls off in his infamous old-fashioned truck as a small raindrop hits my forehead. It's going to be a great day. So that's great.
That's awesome.
For jogging, pulling up in his truck. That's great. Another great example of action. Wonderful, you guys. I'm impressed.
So I'm curious now, because I think algebra, first hour. And then I think, oh, great, raindrops are hitting my forehead. And I wonder if that's awesome is sarcastic. And it's going to be a great day is sarcastic. So if I were writing something that I didn't know if the reader would take it like, oh, this guy's unusually cheery, I can't relate. Or if the reader is like, oh, I wonder what his secret is for staying so cheery. Or the reader could be thinking, well, maybe he's being sarcastic, then I might want to clarify just a little bit. So in the place where it says, that's awesome, I think as I smell the fresh rain on the grass, if it's supposed to be sarcastic, I might say, that's awesome. I think Riley, as I smell the fresh rain, or something like that. And then if I were actually just that cheery because I have a secret that is making the whole world shine brighter, then hopefully by this time in a story, the reader already knows that I have a secret and I am just in a really doggone good mood. So
yeah,
I'm
that's
curious. Smiley, tell us what it is. I'm dying of curiosity.
And hopefully you guys are writing dialogue. So we've given you a few minutes. Maybe you guys were listening to us instead of writing dialogue. Feel free.
We'll give you a couple minutes for that.
Yeah. I hope they're having as much fun as we are. I'm enjoying reading what you guys have to share and hearing your feedback. Thanks, April, for saying that you like the tips.
Oh, and I see that everybody voted they liked the first action scene a lot better than just the description. Good.
Molly responded back. You want to read it?
Oh, yes. I was going for double meaning. I thought you might be. So the word Riley you could throw that in there anywhere, or I thought with a smirk. There's different ways that you can express sarcasm to kind of help your reader realize, oh, okay, that person feels the way I would at that moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the scene.
All right. Well, what I love about this is just us talking. I hope it really inspires you guys to just, especially the writing exercises, to start working on your novel and realize that you guys have stories that we in the world need to hear.
I agree. I know that there was a time that I thought you had to write something completely different that no one had ever heard before. And then I grew up and realized that only teenagers think you don't understand me and my life is completely different than everybody else's. People never get tired of hearing stories. And yes, we do want to add those twists. We do want to add the unique character traits and action that helps our reader feel like they're somewhere else. Yes. But we definitely recycle some of the themes that are timeless because people feel like they're experiencing that because they have so much knowledge of that experience already. Yeah. That it's okay to share things from your perspective that maybe the reader is already somewhat familiar with. Romance, right? How many times do people buy romance novels? Well, that's a multi-billion-dollar industry because people never get tired of watching people fall in love like your grandparents in that novel.
All right, do you want me to read? You want me to read Roberts?
Yes, I totally do.
She observed the raindrops. Okay. He didn't. Okay, so she observed the raindrops falling steadily against the window and wondered at the fact that the world moved on. But Jane's world was falling apart with every word he spoke. Her eyes moved outside as she couldn't look at him. He didn't suffer, John said. Oh, no. Like that matters, Jane said, monotone and emotionless. She wondered why he had brought her here. The old truck gave an atmosphere that was totally at odds with her father. Why didn't he just stay home? He loved flying. It was who he was. Her brother sounded resigned, but mostly at peace. She resented that. What about us? Did he love us? She was in anguish. Did he love his grandchildren? Christy, what did that make you feel?
Oh my goodness. I want to read the whole thing. What I love about this is that there's mystery. You don't tell everything.
Exactly.
You tell just those little one-liners or a couple of sentences that drip the story into my mind. And it's, oh, yes, I do. I like that a lot.
All right, Deborah, you want to read Deborah's?
I do. Oh, good, good, good. I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on this. That was just the pace of that, where you drip that information. I gotta work on my own technique for that. That just makes me want to go right now. So Deborah, she laughed as she said to her new friend, "Oh, this is such fun. I haven't done this in a long time." As her neighbor laughed, "Look how big that bubble is. Ooh, I wonder what the bubble is all about."
Yeah, are they blowing bubbles, or is this
Ah.
sci-fi? Is there something like supernatural about these bubbles, Deborah? But what I liked about this dialogue, Deborah, is it just felt real. It's almost like you could see these two friends conversing, and just maybe I could almost picture like two older women deciding we're gonna blow bubbles, and they are just having a ball of a time.
I do too. You know, Deborah writes fantastic stories about her dad and about all of her family, and she just gets me rolling. Every one of Deborah's stories makes me laugh and just feel like I'm among friends.
Which that's what, again, that's one of the things you can do in writing, is just bring someone in where they feel like, I do have a friend in these characters.
Awesome. And Smiley was actually part of our Option Ocean project, the book that's going to be coming out within the next couple of months. Fantastic. All right, so let's go forward. I want to ask you a couple of questions, Sarah, because this is where your expertise is.
Okay.
You are a professional writer. You didn't go to school intending to become a writer.
No.
What did you went to school intending to become, was it a lawyer?
Yes, I wanted to be a corporate lawyer.
But now you actually do what some of us dream of doing, which is spending your life writing and making a living at that. What is that like? How did you decide to do that? And then how do you spend your days?
Well, the decision was a gradual one. I was working at a software company, and then like they wanted me to write. So I'm just, kind of thinking, is this something I should pursue? Because I was told even in college I should write. So I took some writing courses at local colleges. I did some, online courses, some conferences, and just started writing. Then I had like a major stop because I was doing full-time ministry. And then about 5 years ago, I decided to just start writing. And one of my first jobs was ghostwriting a couple's memoir. And I think it's sometimes not sometimes, you just really have to be disciplined to sit down and write and realize this is your job. You may want to do something else for the moment, but you need to write. And there's projects where it's like, I don't want to do this today, but you realize, okay, this is a job. And yeah, it may sound very unromantic, but in the end, you have a book or a project finish. If you're, doing it for somebody else, that's going to, reach their audience. So like I said, I'm not going to be romantic and say, oh, I go there and I sit down and I sit at my desk and I'm just always inspired and motivated and joyful. Sometimes it's a grind where you're like, I don't really want to look at my novel anymore. I don't want to write or edit or change anything else. But you just realize, maybe I just need to take a walk or just talk to somebody else about this. Or, the biggest thing is being part of a community of fellow writers that can, share that same type of experience you're going through, inspire you, tell you what they're going through and some tips to help. But again, at the end of the day, just like, when you go to your job, this is a job.
I like what you said about being part of a community, because that's one of the things. For years, I wrote music with bands. I wrote songs. And so I'd spend a little bit of alone time writing, but then I'd spend a lot of time in practice having fun with other musicians. And writing a book is very different than that. It's very much, it takes so many hours. it takes a lot of time. I never realized how much time it would take.
Well,
And
it's solitary. I mean, solitary. You're doing it by yourself.
yes. And so I like that you encourage people to have a community. That's something, the reason when I hosted the Option Ocean collaboration this fall, that's one of the things that I had learned about myself was I didn't want to spend yet another year completely alone because it was starting to drain the joy out of writing. I wanted to involve other people and working together. I love what came of that. So you go to a couple of writing groups, don't you?
Yep. Yep. Locally, there's a critique group and there's a Christian women's writing group, and I've gone to others in the past. So, and I've gleaned so much just from the information they share and just being a part of fellow writers and, you know, having friendships outside of, you know, the group itself and the meetings.
That's awesome. What are the names of those groups for those people who are in Tulsa that might want to join a group?
The critique group is a sci-fi. It's not Christian based, but we meet every other week at the Renaissance Center from 5 to about 7. It's kind of in a sitting area by the lobby, and that's called Unbreakable Spines.
Unbreakable Spines?
Unbreakable Spines. And then I I went to the second meeting, actually the first Saturday. Was that last week? It's called WIN, Women's Inspirational Novelists. And these are Christian women that meet once a month to write their novels. And they meet the first Saturday of every month at the Jenks Library at noon.
Once a month on the first Saturday at noon?
Yeah, and then every other Thursday, I think they met this past Thursday. It's through Rhema. There's a writers group, and they meet at the clubhouse. I want to say maybe around 6:30.
Awesome. You know, I will say something about writers groups. You don't want to be so social that you don't get your writing done.
Yes.
But yeah, but if you set reasonable deadlines for yourself, then you can insert times that renew your spirit and also give you good feedback. Now, we're going to be hosting some things that I think you'll enjoy to keep you on track and to help you get through your novel this year. But while you're waiting for us, be part of a local community. If you find that can help you, I would definitely encourage that. I want to read something that Donna wrote. She posted after our last reading. The women wore traditional Indian colors that contrasted against their beautiful dark complexions. They were keeping their conservative composures, sitting quietly in the bus with their hands in their laps. Suddenly, small bottles of bubbles were passed around. Their serious composures changed instantly. Giggles and laughter filled the air with bubbles floating overhead. Yes, that's pretty much exactly how it was, except we weren't on a bus. That's awesome. I like that. So suddenly, small bottles just kind of appear, huh? That does change people's composures. All right. So how many hours do you normally put into your writing day, Sarah? Does that vary widely, or do you have a consistent time that you put in?
All right, full disclosure and transparency.
Mm-hmm.
I try to block out like at least 2 to 3 hours in the morning. I haven't been as consistent to try to do it as early as I want, but it's in my day timer. But I try to do, as far as like novel writing, I try to get at least 2 to 3 hours. And sometimes that doesn't just, like, it's not, because I'm in the revision stage, sometimes it's not just strictly working on the novel, but sometimes doing some research and crafting, learning crafting, because crafting is something that, like, you're exercising a muscle. Writing is an art, so you're always learning new techniques and honing your skills. No matter, I've talked to novelists that have written 60 novels, and they still have to do that. So because I want to always improve, I'm having to put that in my, whether I do it once a week, the crafting part, I try to write every day. And sometimes it's not always just on my novel. Sometimes I journal about my life and make it sound like a novel to practice those writing skills. Or I might work on a short story or something that inspires me, but I want to write something every day. Now, do I do that? Well, during Christmas, I didn't, but I do try to write something every day, because not only does it help with your, getting your novel finished, but it also it exercises the craft and the craft muscles that you need as you're learning to become a novelist.
That makes a lot of sense. And I've heard a lot of people say that we want to write without turning on our editor mind. Yes. Or, while locking our editor mind in the closet, even if we have to, because it's tempting to begin writing and instantly be critiquing what you're saying. And, an hour later, you have 2 sentences written because you've picked them apart 40 bazillion times. What we want through this workshop and the other things we do is not to make you think critically about your writing. We want you to sit down and just go with it, but we want to help you learn little techniques that are kind of like toys. As writers, we like to play with new toys. These techniques are new toys that you can use in writing your story. I can't ever forget when I first got my Writer's Digest subscription years and years ago. I was 22 and I was dealing with some pretty serious internal changes I needed to make. I needed to learn to forgive some things and overcome some handicaps that were, just things that were weighing down my spirit. And I got a subscription to Writer's Digest that year and wrote a fiction story about the issues that I was dealing with. So as they would come to me, I would use the neat techniques that were suggested in the Writer's Digest magazine to create new scenes, just kind of like what we're doing here today. So writing can be very therapeutic for that too.
Oh, Christy, real quick, I think this would be, applicable to many of the attendees, is how do you juggle a full-time job, a husband, offering webinars while working on your novel?
Yeah. So a couple of things. I don't watch TV much except with my husband because that's our special time. That's what he enjoys for me to do. But also, a long time ago, I knew that we had big layoffs at the place where I worked. And I said, Lord, someday when I get laid off, I want to be able to be a full-time writer. But I also knew that I had spent my life in reaction mode. My job all day was reacting to questions people asked. And I needed to develop the stamina that it would take to focus on writing. So I started creating, I had vacation days, and I started scheduling myself a day a month, either a holiday or a vacation day, when I would set aside time to write. And that became kind of like my special time, my writing time. And then when years later, I developed that kind of stamina, I started doing the blog and inserting more time into my days. I started writing books and got to where I said, I want to write. I want to live. I still want to see my friends once in a while, but I want to write or do something towards my book goal or my course goal, whatever I might be working on every day, so that I can end the day, and no matter what I haven't gotten done, I can be grateful and proud of myself for accomplishing that one thing. Absolutely. And I started keeping a gratitude journal about that, here's the things I'm grateful for, and here's the thing I'm grateful to have done, because I actually care about my own success and not just others. That's been a really, really helpful thing. And I also had to get reasonable. When I first decided to write a book, I thought it would be as easy as writing songs. It takes like a million times longer. And I would get really, really stressed because I would feel the pressure like, oh, this is never going to be finished. And I had to be reasonable and go, if I'm doing what I can do, and I'm a slow writer, I've been writing for years, but when they say that the average writer writes whatever, that's totally not me. It takes me longer because I put a lot of thought into it. I stop and research things. I do stuff like that. And I had to figure out how long I take to do the work, and then allow myself that space to do it. Did you know that if you write just 6 hours a week, 6 hours a week
That's
at average pace, then within 6 months, you'll have a 50,000 word manuscript, first draft.
right.
So it helps to know how long things take. Yes, it's going to take you that long if all you put in is 6 hours a week. But if all you have is 6 hours a week, then that's still well under a year. You get it edited and then you get it published. Boom, by the end of the year, you have something that you've just dreamed about for the last 20 years. I think that's impressive.
Yeah, and I heard a statistic, something like over 80% have an idea for a book and want to write a book, but only 20% ever write the book. So I really want, I know, so I want all of us to be in that 20%.
Yes. These people who are here today are awesome people. I absolutely love the idea of them sharing their stories with the whole world. So a writer does more than write. We have a little gift for you. If you stick around to the end, there's a little gift that's a book planner. Sarah and I have taken our experience with the actual writing process and with the promotion and publishing and business kinds of things, and we've put them together into a planner. So why are you going to need all that? Well, back when I was 5, I learned how to read, and within a couple of years, I couldn't contain myself. I wanted to join all those awesome storytellers on the bookshelves of the library. But back then, every writer's dream was to be discovered by some big publisher who would pay them to sit in exotic coffee shops writing their stories while the publisher did all the work.
Mm-hmm.
They also used payphones back then, so the world has changed a little.
Yeah, quite a bit. Some people might not know what a payphone is.
Nowadays, you actually will, as you're writing, you'll be developing a following, and you'll let those people who are interested in your story and following your writing progress help you pay for things by telling them a little bit about what you're doing, by sharing little snippets into your character and little scenes or little moments in your life. And as you do, they are going to want this book.
Absolutely.
And they're going to keep you writing, because you can't say you're going to write and tell everybody about it and then not eventually present them with a book. But they're also going to tell their friends, and you're going to have a chance to pre-sell your book. Basically, even the big publishers who expect you to have 100,000 or more followers before they'll even think about picking you up, even they pre-sell their books. I get emails from one of my favorite authors who's with a huge publisher. Before his books come out, they will send me emails to say, hey, a book is coming out by this author who's amazing. Do you want to pre-order it? Those are things that help pay for your book cover and your professional edit, because every book needs those two things done professionally, so that your beautiful baby doesn't get ignored on a shelf somewhere. So we're going to help you in the book planner kind of pace that out and understand that process so that you can keep writing. We want you to finish your novel, but also so that you don't have to fork over a bunch of money for it. You can get other people to help with that process. Now, if you are getting paid, Uncle Sam would like his share.
Yes.
So we also have included in the book planner a little help to get your business set up and understand how that works. So think about who wants to buy your book. Who is it that you think really, really, really needs to have a copy of your book because they will totally love it? Right now in the comments, tag that person and say, at so-and-so, I am writing a book this year.
Yes.
How
Let's
brave
go.
of
I'm excited.
you.
While people do that, Smiley asked you a question. Of one of
Yes. Okay, Smiley, if you write 6 hours a week, and I think it's like 300 words an hour is the average pace. I can't remember what the hourly was. You should have around 50,000 words in a first draft within 6 months. When is that? So from today,
January.
6 months would be June 12th?
Yeah.
Or July 12th. February, March, April, May, June, July.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Oops, I posted that in the wrong place. Let's put that in the right place.
So while she's doing that, you guys be bold and confident and take, I know it's a risk to take that step to share with somebody that you're going to write a book, but just do it to inspire yourself and to realize, hey, this is not only doable, but I will do it.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I want you tagging people because I want you making this commitment. I think that it is a commitment you can make. And if you will, think about that 6 hour a week thing. Think about how much time you're going to commit to what your dream is. And then put the date you plan to have your book completed.
Right.
So you might do it in 6 months. You might do it in 3. You might do it in 12. But think about the commitment you want to make. I would never have done the first book if my grandparents hadn't gone into the nursing home. And suddenly I knew time was limited and I needed to get on it.
Mm-hmm.
My next book I did because my brother was having a birthday, and it's an art and poetry book that I did that's on Blurb now that turned out really well. The book after that wasn't for a particular person. It was for the rest of the world.
Yes.
And I sat on that thing for a couple of years. Sat on the idea of it, played around with it on my blog, and then one day I was at a conference like this one.
Yes.
And I made a commitment to have it done in a year.
And
that's the reason that that Wisdom Better Than Wishing actually got into your hands. So make that commitment. Awesome. Go, Deborah. She is going to write a book this year.
woo-hoo!
Woo! I know Smiley is already working on it, and I think that's fantastic. Donna has been working on a book about her parents and her family. So I know you're already making progress. April, I'm just meeting you today, but I can't wait to get to know you better. And I'm really glad that you found that encouraging. So right now, I am going to put a link to the planner. And the book planner comes with a little demo video that'll, it's pretty self-explanatory, but the demo video will walk you through it if you need a little extra help. And so you feel free to download that video and to share, download the planner and video, and to share this video with everybody you know. But Sarah, I think you might have one more little bit of homework for our viewers.
Yes, and this is what I'm so excited about because a lot of you are saying, I am going to work on my novel. So this is our homework for you. Work on your novel. Write a scene in your novel that uses all the techniques we discussed: action, senses, and dialogue, avoiding those 3 pitfalls. Then email us that scene at info@momentwiser.com. Christy will put that in comments. And we will offer critique on each submission. But this is the bonus. We are going to select one person's submission to feature during our at-home weekend writing retreat. Of course, we'll get your permission ahead of time.
Yes. And if you are interested in our at-home writing retreat, remember we said community is important. And sometimes when we're left on our own, we don't finish things. So we are on February 22nd through February 24th. We are hosting a writing retreat right here on Facebook, but it's going to be in a private group because we don't want everybody in the world flooding this thing. We want you so that we can work together. So go ahead and share this with anybody you know who might be interested. And then we will set up a group for the weekend of February 24th. That's a Friday night. February 22nd, that's a Friday night, through the afternoon of Sunday, February 24th. We'll have sessions throughout that weekend that will give you little exercises and learning, and we'll have some really neat worksheets and exercises and share time that weekend. And Sarah, they have, I believe, a special gift if they sign up before January 15th. Is that right?
Yes. So one of the things that I do when I start, thinking about, researching my manuscripts and what I'm going to write about is I fill out a character template because I want to know my characters ahead of time. And this is a 4-page template. It doesn't take long, where you write out like physical traits, personality traits, their likes, their dislikes, their dreams, their desires, their hopes, their goals, and you just fill that out. And what that does is help to, again, connect you even closer to your character before you write. And then you'll find that as you write, it's like, wow, it makes the writing, especially when you're describing your character and especially doing dialogue, to make that writing much easier, and you just feel connected. And realize that the more connected you feel to your character, the clearer your characters will be to your readers, and they'll feel that much more connected.
Plus, along with getting the character template, which I really like, Sarah, because it includes things I might not otherwise have thought of,
right,
that help me make my character more realistic. They help my character do things that a normal person who maybe follows that religion or does that job or grew up in that side of the country would do. So in addition to the character template, you'll also get a discount. So if you sign up before January 15th for our February 22nd through 24th weekend writing retreat, where we're going to help you make good progress on your book. None of this 2-minute writing thing. You're going to make progress. Then you actually will save $30 if you sign up before January 15th. It's normally going to be $127, but it'll be $97 just for you. So that's pretty good for a writing retreat. I've seen some that were $600 or more.
Oh no, I went to, it was much more. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's all right. What were you going to say?
Oh, yeah, I know that sounds like a lot of money, and I would, I'm in the boat with you. I'm thinking, yeah, that's a lot of money, but I look at it as an investment into writing your book and getting good crafting skills. So as you're writing, you might think, gosh, how do I do this? And we can help you with that part, and it's interactive. So you'll be thinking with your novel, and if those of you that say, yes, I'm going to write my book this year, you'll have at least a couple chapters, I believe, by that time, and you can be taking this retreat and working on your own stuff as you're listening and participating in the retreat. So look at it as just a part of the writing process, an investment in the writing process.
I agree. Well, also with the book planner, we're talking about you actually writing a book that people buy, right? And one of the things in the book planner that you're getting today is about setting up your business. Educational things towards a book or a business project, those are often tax deductible. So we are not tax advisors. Talk to your tax professional. But things like this writing weekend, which is going to help you make progress, can maybe counted as something that you can deduct from your taxes, a business expense. So I have posted, or right now I am posting a link. I posted a note about it, forgot to post the link.
actually join us live, could they purchase it and watch it later? Is it going to be saved where they can watch it at a later time?
Yes, here's the thing. The sessions will start on Friday night at 7 and end on Sunday at 3, but they are, just like this one, viewable at any time. So if you sign up, then you'll have access to those sessions, and we'll go ahead and leave the access open for the month of March for everybody who has signed up for the sessions. And that way you'll have time to go back and replay things you want more help with, or to listen to the ones that you haven't gotten a chance to visit.
Awesome, because someone said they had a house guest that weekend.
Ah, well, how fun. And you know what? Think about their body movements, their facial expressions, their voice tone while you're talking to them. You're going to sit there taking notes, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay, we are out of time, but you have made my day. Thank you so much for being here, all of you. And Sarah, you are so much fun to work with. I can't wait to see how our viewers' books roll out, and I look forward to working more with you.
Yes, me too. And I think this is something that gives me joy, is to help other people write their books and see that it's not just something that's impossible, but that it's possible, and that this is the year for them to do it. And yes, any way we can help, we are available.
Absolutely. If you want to talk to Sarah, look at write2edit.com. So write2edit.com. And she's on Facebook. And then also I am, of course, right here at One Moment Wiser. And you're welcome to watch my daily devotion videos and share them with your friends. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Let's try this again. I'm posting our links real quick.
Okay, I just
posted. All right. Now the links are posted, and mwah, we love you guys. Bye.
Bye.